For YouTube, app settings, start transfer. We should be good.
Welcome, everybody, to the Monthly Movie Dispatch, the movie review show from friends that you can trust. Every week, we broadcast a review of a new film, talk about some film news, and recommend what to watch. We've been talking, critiquing, and gushing over movies since we were in high school, and we aim to bring you honest conversations about relevant cinema. This is a really exciting time for movies. There's just blockbusters coming out left and right. There's indies that are available, and that's what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to be talking about a new indie movie that actually premiered at Sundance 2020, but it just got released this last week. I'm Nick Moffat, and I'm here today with Brandon Bolby.
How's it going?
Dude, Brandon, great. This is our first time actually chatting on the Monthly Movie Dispatch since we changed formats, and
As a duo.
I'm excited.
Yeah. It's
Yeah, dude.
been it's been the whole year, or at least this whole movie season. We haven't had a conversation together about film.
Yeah, this whole movie season. Yeah, I mean,
Hmm.
because we start the movie season in Dude, March Brandon, or whatever. Great. So this is ever since we went to this new format and started a new season, new year, we haven't talked. I haven't seen you or heard from you. I'm just kidding. Yeah, we talk offline, but no. I'm just excited to talk about this movie, and I think this is a perfect movie for us. I feel like
Kind of
this is one of those
is.
movies where I feel like this is one of those movies where the Venn diagram of our interests
Hmm.
coincide,
Yeah.
um I was gonna say I have a bone to pick with you because you gave F9 1.5 stars, you crazy person.
I don't
Why do you even
know.
bother going to those movies?
I don't
Just kidding.
know. I was thought it maybe was gonna be more like Fast Seven, but it's not for me. You're right. I should probably should just stop putting myself through that.
I mean, it was everything I wanted it to be. That's why I gave it 4.5 stars. Am I crazy?
Think
But
so.
I just like saw your review and was like, man, he must have hated me and Derek's conversation about that movie last week because I think we only said good things.
Yeah,
But
I listened to the whole thing. You guys were ecstatic about it. But you're right. This film Zola is like I don't know where it came from. You picked it, you found it, and I didn't even watch a trailer for it. But I'm definitely really glad that we're doing this one together because it
totally,
intersects a lot of the styles that we really like.
totally. So before we get into the review on Zola, we wanted to talk about the production company A24
Hmm.
that put out Zola. And for those that may not know about A24, they're a newer production company. I think they've been putting out movies since 2014 or 2013 or so, but they have only do a few movies a year. It's usually like 4 or 5 movies a year, but they have really crafted their brand, and they just it's one of those things where A24 logo pops up, it's going to be something worthwhile or interesting, or like they just all of their movies are like smaller indies, but they're all pretty fascinating.
Yeah, they
Even the
have
ones that
like
you don't like are like quality, like someone might like it out there.
yeah, they're always interesting, and there are some in between films that you don't really hear about that go under the radar. Like producing a movie like this is always a gamble. So they put stock in interesting filmmakers, and it is hit or miss when you go back through their entire filmography. But it is shocking how big the hits are, and how the hits are some of the best films of the last decade, like completely.
Totally. Like we've got Best Picture winners in there.
Yeah.
Moonlight was a A24 movie. You've got like weird experimental movies, bunch of like super acclaimed horror movies. Um, I feel like A24 at this point is like for film geeks like ourselves, it's kind of like the Criterion like
I
brand.
was thinking the same thing. Like in 50 years from now, A24 in and of itself is going to be its own Criterion collection.
Yeah. I mean, very possibly. I mean, I feel like Focus Feature back in the day had kind of similar vibe of A24, and then they kind of like fell off the rails a little bit. So, I mean, I hope A24 keeps it up, because what they're doing right now is really great. I actually have it sitting here in front of me. There's a list on Letterboxd, A24 complete filmography, and
Hmm.
according to this list, they have 111 movies.
Hmm.
Um, I've seen 54 of them, so 48%.
That's insane for just a movie studio.
Yeah.
Like I don't know that doesn't seem. There's nothing else like that, besides maybe like Pixar or not even Disney. It would be more just like Disney animated because Disney has a lot of extra stuff throughout the years. So it's pretty impressive that A24 has such a curated list of good films that we've just happened to see over the last, has it even been 10 years? Maybe over 10 years that it's been around as a studio.
Yeah. Yeah, it has. I don't think it's been 10 years. According to this, the first one was in 2012.
Yeah.
It was.
And
I don't know. I don't know
what
this
was your
movie. It
percentage,
flipped.
Nick?
I'm at 54, or I'm at 80.
Oh,
I'm at 48%. I'm sorry. I've seen 54, so I'm at
okay.
48%.
I am at 48% as well.
Oh my
Exactly.
gosh!
Yeah.
Wow!
And I went through it earlier
Holy
today to make
moly!
sure I had all of them selected. So, yeah, we're
Yeah,
tied.
I honestly thought this might happen. I
Hmm.
thought my first instinct was that you would be in front of me.
Hmm.
Just looking, like scrolling through, I was like, I think Brand's gonna be in front of me. But then I was like, wait, there's like two or three that I know that Brandon hasn't seen that I
Yeah,
have,
I
and I
have
know
few.
that there's two or three that Brandon's seen that I haven't
Hmm.
seen. So, wow, when does this happen that we're exactly the same?
Yeah, almost half of every movie they put out. Um,
Totally.
I'm
Like
excited to
50%
do
is pretty
this.
good for any list on Letterboxd, honestly.
Yeah,
So,
I think it's worth saying we were deciding what to do with A24 and we were going to do like this rank off, and we were so daunted by picking five of these amazing movies. I think your system's going to be a lot more fun.
So yeah, instead of doing like a rank off, we were gonna do like our top fives or whatever. We decided to pick out a few like themes, or they're kind of like genres or ideas that A24 seems to like put out consistently. So I just have some of these themes sitting here, and then we each picked one or two movies um, as like the best or the most representative of A24 with those. So the first one we got here is realistic drama.
Hmm. You want me to start?
What do you? Yeah, what do you have for that one?
I didn't necessarily go with like this the go-to best on all of them. I tried to like represent a lot of different ones here. The last one one I put here was Last Black Man in San Francisco.
Oh,
That was a
interesting.
recent one that hit me hard. I put it in my top 10 that year. I was really into that film.
Cool. Yeah, I had Room at number
Oh
as the
shit.
realistic drama.
I saw that
Yeah,
on there and I was like, I remember Nick freaked out about Room. And I mean, I
dude,
loved it
Room
too,
is
but
so good.
mhm.
I mean, can I say my second one too? Because I feel like that's the like most realistic drama of them all.
Mhm.
The Florida Project.
Right.
Like that's
For
just
sure.
like a fly on the wall, like
I think I
realistic.
actually overlooked Florida Project when picking that one, but I'm still happy with my Last Black Man in
Yeah.
San Francisco.
Okay, so coming of age movies.
Yeah, I got to go with the one that I know you hate, eighth grade.
Eighth grade. I don't hate eighth grade.
I
I
know.
just didn't think it. I just didn't like it as much as everyone.
You
But
just gave it three
uh,
and a half stars instead of four. So sue
right,
you.
right. Yeah, I went with Ladybird.
Yeah, good pick
Yeah.
for sure.
Um, directed by women. They have a bunch of really good movies that are directed by women.
Hmm.
Um,
I went with American Honey.
oh, dude, good pick. Good
Yeah,
pick. Andrea Arnold. She's like only done a few movies, but each one is like pretty
such
interesting.
a
And
long slice of life experimental cool film.
yeah, and the actress in that movie is in Zola. So we'll be talking
What?
about her later.
Okay.
Yeah, Riley Keough.
Hmm.
But so I put First Cow for that one.
Hmm. Okay. Yeah,
Yeah,
of
and
course you did.
that was my number one movie of last year. I feel like I needed to represent Kelly Reinhardt.
Yeah.
So,
Yep.
uh, minority voices. They're very good at telling stories from minorities. Um,
You got to
what
give
did
it to none other than Moonlight. It won Best Picture, is one of the best films of the year. Made for $2 million. That movie's fucking incredible.
Yeah, absolutely. And I'm really glad you said that one because I also wanted to give a shout out to Minari,
Hmm.
another Best Picture nominee from last year.
Yeah, for 100%.
Experimental. Some A24 is definitely known for some pretty weird movies. So I would say the two that I have on here are some of the weirdest movies I've ever seen. So
I think we're gonna
um,
overlap on this one. Um,
okay.
I went with A Ghost Story.
Oh really? No, I didn't have the ghost story.
What
I didn't even have that in my three, honestly.
the fuck? Okay.
I know. I love Ghost Story. Don't get me wrong. That movie
Mm-hmm.
is great. It's and yeah, it actually would be experimental. There's like no dialogue in it. Basically, it's just a guy under a sheet
Yep.
living
The Green
forever,
Knight comes
basically
out soon too.
dying forever.
Excited to
But
review that.
oh my gosh, that movie looks crazy. I was thinking Swiss Army Man.
Ooh, of
The
course.
yeah,
Yeah.
the Daniel Radcliffe as a farting corpse movie.
Yeah.
Um, by far the weirdest movie I've ever seen, but it's also really heartfelt and
Amazing
special.
music.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. Also, I want to just give a shout out to The Lobster too, just
Okay.
because
Hmm.
that movie.
Yeah, that one hit you hard.
Um, horror.
This is a
A24 has
big one.
some really interesting horror movies. Yeah,
They're like the
some really
elevated Blumhouse almost. They have so many horror movies they put out.
totally.
My horror pick is Green Room.
Dude, great pick. Great pick.
Mm-hmm.
Love Greenwood. Green Room. Love it.
That was a tough
Um,
choice.
yeah, yeah. And I was going to say The Witch
Okay. Okay.
because just to me that is such a unique movie. Folktale, like just chilling to the bone.
Mm-hmm.
Um, neither of us mentioned Ari Aster though, because
I
but both of
know.
his movies, he's like the
Hereditary,
hottest horror director
Midsummer.
right now. Yeah.
I had to go with
Uh,
Green Room though.
and existential sci-fi.
Yeah. So my pick is Under the Silver Lake, pushing the
Oh,
boundaries of sci-fi.
okay.
Maybe fantasy, but there's some. I don't know. It's probably not sci-fi, but I decided to
Well,
pick it.
well, I get why you would pick it. It is a fantasy, and those kind like because yeah, that movie's super weird because it doesn't really exist in our world,
Yep.
but it kind of does.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. Yeah, sci-fi is good. I'd accept it.
Okay.
I
Okay.
actually I this wasn't my number one pick, but I had a ghost story as a sci-fi. That's what I was
Yeah.
thinking for
Actually,
that.
that works too at some points for sure.
But I put Ex Machina as
There you go.
the
Yeah.
sci-fi.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then the last one we got here is Thriller.
Uncut
Thriller.
Gems, my number one pick from 2 years ago. I had
Hell
to put
yeah,
it there.
of course. Of course. I feel like you added Thriller on here, and I'm glad you
Mm-hmm.
did because we needed to bring up Uncut Gems.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, I also had Uncut Gems on there.
You did?
Uh, yeah, I did.
All right.
But
There
I
we
also
go.
wanted to not High Life, but what was the other movie by the Sadi brothers?
Good
Um,
times.
Good Times. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that was the other thriller that I was thinking about.
Mm-hmm.
So, um,
Oh,
yeah.
God, I
Anyway,
feel like we could. You mentioned before we could make this an A24 podcast, then just talk about Zola for 5 minutes, and I'm totally on board for that
yeah,
because this was a really good idea.
yeah. A24 is incredible. It's one of those things where every time, yeah, like I said before, anytime you see the logo, it's like, okay, cool. This is probably going to be a quality movie,
Yeah,
or at least do something very interesting. So, yeah, let's get into Zola. So let's get into Zola.
let's do it.
So Zola is a pretty interesting movie. I'm just gonna read the plot summary real quick. A waitress agrees to accompany an exotic dancer. She's an exotic dancer herself as well. Um, but she accompanies an exotic dancer, her put upon boyfriend, and her mysterious and domineering roommate on a road trip to Florida to seek fortune at a high end strip club. This was directed by Janska Bravo and stars Taylor Page and Riley Keough. I don't know how to say her last name. Keough. Um, that's
Um,
Riley Keough is the one from American Honey.
okay.
She's not the main character, but she's kind of like the leader of the pack. Do you remember?
Yep.
Um, and also, I learned today that her mom is uh, Marie Presley, so her grandfather is Elvis. So
Oh,
that's kind of funny.
okay.
So little trivia there just to set you up right out the gate. But
Mm-hmm.
um, anyway, this movie is really interesting though because um, it is based on a Twitter thread. So
And they let you know that very clearly.
yeah, up front.
Mm-hmm.
Did you know it was a Twitter thread
I
ahead of
did
time?
not. No.
Okay, I knew it was a Twitter thread ahead of time, but not not so explicitly. Like I kind of forgot what the thread was, and I actually went back today and reread it, and I realized I had read it. It was basically posted on Twitter in 2015, and
You
this
had
woman,
read it in the time because it
yeah,
was such a
yeah,
big deal. Oh wow.
yeah. Like I didn't remember it while I was watching the movie. Like
Uh
the
huh.
whole movie, I was on the edge of my seat, and I had no idea what was happening. And then today, when I reread the whole thing,
Mm-hmm.
I was like, okay, I remember reading this six
Mm-hmm.
years ago, and it's this lady Zola. She basically just tweeted one tweet at a time. This is even before. This is when Twitter was 80 characters, not 160,
Right.
and
Yeah.
so that short tweets telling this whole story, and um,
Must have
then
been
there was
very
an art.
fragmented, even 150 of them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but her voice was very clear. Like her voice was very loud and funny in the
Okay.
story, um, just like the movie. And then uh, A24 started developing this movie with James Franco was actually attached to direct it for a little bit. Um, but I shouldn't say it was actually totally based on the Twitter art feed. The Twitter feed blew up, and then there was an article written about it, and so the movie's actually based on the article, so it should be a little bit more factual than the Twitter feed.
Got it.
Anyway, we can link them to the show notes if anyone's interested. But um, I had never heard of a movie based on Twitter before,
No.
um, so that already is pretty unique. I was caught by this movie because it just I didn't actually see the trailer, but the pictures, the stills I saw from it, and the just the posters and everything I was hearing about it sounded very stylish. Sounded like a very unique story, and
Mm-hmm.
it absolutely was. And I mean that plot summary, like sometimes we read the plot summaries on here and they're kind of silly, but that's the bare bones of the plot. They it starts off pretty quick where she's like, "Hey, you want to hear a story?" And it's kind of weird, and
It really
then
grabs you from the intro. Like I was on board just at the start in the when they're just meeting and becoming friends and they preface the entire story with this is all going to fall apart. So yeah, so you know where it's going, or at least you know there's it's not going to end well.
yeah, so it's kind of one of those movies that has like tonal shifts. Like the whole movie kind of has like the sense that something's going to go wrong. So you're kind of like on edge a little bit the whole time, like worrying what's going to happen. But at the same time, these two they click immediately, and then they start joking, and they have this really fun banter, and it's like I feel seen for the first time, and they
Hmm.
like say things like that, and um, you know, the main character is Zola, and she's this black woman, and then she meets this white girl. It's kind of like a joke that she's like, I met this white bitch, and I'm gonna go down to Florida with her, and I gotta screw my boyfriend because he's gonna be pissed about it. It's like, I
Yeah.
gotta fuck him silly, I think is what she says or something. So then they go to Florida, and I don't want to say pretty quick things go off the rails, but like just flags start popping up, and she's like, "Okay, this is not gonna go so well. This is pretty weird. I'm not on board with this." And yeah, shit kind of unravels. But I was pretty impressed by how this movie, like I said before, balanced the tones. I thought it was pretty funny throughout the movie, but also there were moments where I was like, "Oh gosh, oh, what's happening? Okay, here we go."
Hmm.
And um, yeah,
There's a lot going
what
on with the style and the tone, and it's kind of like it sets itself up to where they can kind of do whatever they want by the time you're halfway through this movie. Like you don't know if it's going to turn like straight up like brutal horror or if it's just going to stick to this comedy or whatever like scene style they decide to throw at you because they try to be creative throughout from stop to finish. There's like unique ways of showing you like every scenario throughout this film. It's not just like straightforward scenes. It's really creative. But by the time you're halfway through, like they could really throw anything at you, and I was kind of ready to take it on because they've just set up this like really loose, creative film for you. Does that make sense?
totally they kind of like break the fourth wall a little bit a few times
Mm-hmm.
too, where like there's like a voiceover that keeps popping up, which is supposedly like the tweets that were happening. They kind of are connecting it to the outside world a little bit. But there's a few moments that were just like spectacular with visual style. Um, specifically like when they were like getting ready to get on stage, and then even some of the dancing on stage,
Hmm.
they would be like looking in the mirror, getting dressed, and then just like the lighting would be like sparkling or just reflecting really cool imagery, like they were in a dream almost.
She's trying to figure out who she wants to be for her strip night, and she's like appearing in like four different like silhouettes, and it's like flashing like with her different outfits. I just like a lot of creative, yeah, visual and editing style.
Yeah,
When they're or the big sex scene with some of the men, like it, the way that's edited and the way that shows is like really really well done. Um, yeah, I
yeah.
love that a lot.
I thought that scene was so great.
Mm-hmm.
Just to break it down a little bit, like there's a scene where the Kiwa's character starts like having sex with some men, one at a time, but kind of they film it like a montage,
Yeah,
and they, just film history, they would typically take the male gaze, and it would maybe show the sexiness of this girl that we are following, this cute girl, but like instead they like kind of focus on the men that
yeah.
she's sleeping with and like how gross it is, like, but
Mm-hmm.
even like they don't even like, I still don't even feel like the movie was like, ew, gross. Like it just was like,
No,
yeah, no, this is the man's shirt that he's taking off. This is what his penis looks like. And it's like a
yeah.
close up of just like a
Here's
shriveled up
his
penis.
relaxed face right after he comes, and like
Yeah.
side by side, like it was really interesting and like creative way to show that, and even the music at that point was just I don't know as well really interesting.
Yeah, the music was really great. I mean, throughout the movie, the sound editing actually was really fantastic in this movie.
Hmm.
But
Yeah, they do a
um,
lot of tricks and like flourishes to like set you on the edge. Like all those night shots of the car just driving, you're like, how long? The shots aren't like that long, but they're a little longer than normal. And like you think, something bad is just around the corner, or like the and the music in those shots, or like the when they show up at the gross hotel, the kids playing basketball up top, but it's like in a really unnatural way, and there's almost a rhythm to it, and like you start
oh, there
looking up at those.
absolutely was a rhythm to it. It was like
Yeah.
done, 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 and it kept
And
happening. And wait, what? It just kind of was like jarring, but like there's nothing jarring about a basketball, but it was setting it up that this whole experience was jarring.
hmm
Um, yeah, dude. I thought that just a quick tangent. The this director, Jancica Bravo. I've mentioned this on on other podcasts, but that I'm doing two projects this year. I'm watching like 20 films by Black filmmakers and 52 movies by women directors,
hmm
and this she crosses both of those off, which is awesome for
hmm
me. But um, I thought that she handled this movie so well. This is like I don't know if this is her first movie, but I do think that like her voice was so strong with this, and like this is kind of the thing that I keep talking about, where um I feel like if we give more women like the budget to make whatever kind of movie they want, we're going to like kind of have a new like film language to some degree.
hmm
And to me, that's kind of what this movie was. Like it was, obviously, yeah. Before when we were talking about the montage, it was kind of poking fun at the female gaze, but also like I didn't think this movie like really like disparaged its characters at all for stripping or even like hooking either. Like I didn't really think it was like these people are bad because they're doing this. It showed the dangers of it possibly, but they were both. I mean, the main character was really smart and she was on top of her shit,
Yeah.
and they also like played with perspective in a really interesting way. And like you said before, there's a lot of style in this movie. I just thought this movie was so well directed and
She also wasn't afraid. She wasn't afraid to make her movie like sexy as hell in so
totally.
many scenes. And just, I mean, that's what these girls did. This was their job. This is how they made money, and they're fucking good at it. And
Yeah,
so she like did it up with her directing and a lot of it. There's just a lot of shots of skin and bodies and movement, and
right.
it
There's that
looks really
scene.
cool.
there's that scene where they go to the first strip club, and she has to wear, like, there's rules at the club, so they have to wear like
Pasties.
patches on their nipples and stuff. Yeah, pasties. And she's like, how am I supposed to make money, if I can't show my nipples? And the other girl's like, we're sexy as hell. Like,
Yeah.
you'll make money just because you're sexy. And then, like, then she gets on stage and it's like she films it like she's fucking sexy, and
Hmm.
it's really good,
Hmm.
and it wasn't like gratuitous though, it wasn't like, oh, she's stripping, or it wasn't. It just was like, yeah, the female body is sexy and she's working, and
The random
that's
dude, you
the fact of it.
remind me of Oprah Winfrey. And she's
What
just
was
like,
that? But
what?
yeah, okay,
And just
but
continues on.
yeah. So, yeah, dude. I really, really like this movie though. Felt like it was
Hmm.
very honest, and at least honest from the perspective it was telling the story.
Yeah,
Uh,
I wanna dig into some of those perspectives
yeah.
in the next
So how
phase
about
of
we?
this.
Yeah. So how about we go into spoilers? Because there's a few things that we want to talk about that were more specific to the plot. But at this point, I have nothing. I have a few, like, minor quibs, but very positive review. So
Yeah,
highly recommend Zola.
highly, highly recommend it. Go see it.
So after this, we're gonna do spoilers, spoilers. Okay. So, uh, what do you think?
Where to?
Where's
What'd
your
you
start?
think of the I mean, so the movie really favors our protagonist, like to an extreme. You mentioned how smart and capable she was. She's like on top of her shit at every moment. I don't think there's like a second where she doesn't handle the situation well or intelligently, or like, or where she's just not strong even while being like demoralized. But on like half, more than half, three-fourths of the way through the film, they cut to the like opposite perspective, which is obviously just like such a trashy, wrong bullshit. The way they film it, it's like done up in almost for laughs.
Oh, it's
Flip
completely for
side of it,
laughs. Like,
yeah.
basically it was like, for a second they gave Stefani's, the white girl's
Hmm.
perspective, and it was like, apparently this was
She was
real. Like,
literally wearing
she
garbage
went on
bags.
Reddit.
Hmm.
Yeah, so she went on Reddit after this Twitter thread blew up and was like,
I'm a
"No, this
good
is my
Christian
side of the
girl, and
story."
this trashy hoe
Yeah.
took me to like Florida. Yeah.
Yeah. And
Um,
it was like, sure, you don't believe any of that for a second, but also it's like, maybe Zola, like, exaggerated some details, or maybe
yeah.
she like messed up a little bit on her own. Like, you don't
And I guess
100%
I
know.
bring it up. It's not a criticism at all. It was just it was I liked that they brought up the Reddit thread and showed you that flip side for a bit and went on that like recap of everything. And it actually was pretty fun for a chance to have such a like smart, intelligent lead. Even in like her jabs, she was throwing back at the pimp. So yeah, I liked her personality a lot.
Right, and that was something we haven't actually talked about yet, was that, I mentioned that they go with her roommate, and it turns out her roommate is her pimp.
Hmm.
Stephanie's, not Zola's. So Zola finds out that that this guy, that she doesn't know his name, is Stephanie's pimp, and she's like, "I'm not here for that. I don't want to do that. I'm not hooking. Like, I'm not doing that." Um, but she doesn't leave. She keeps hanging out with him, and then there are a few like extremely tense moments with that guy. Like, there
Hmm.
is a point in the first night where she's like, "I'm out," and she gets out of the car, and the guy like screams at her,
And
and
like that's the thing we talk about with like horror films a lot too, is like why you just gotta like turn and walk away. And at the
yeah.
second things get weird, she literally is like, I'm out of this car, I'm calling a cab and probably getting on an airplane and just going home, like
Mhm.
within 4 seconds of things getting weird. And I was like, fuck yes, finally a movie who does what a normal person would do. But then
Mhm.
obviously he turns around
I
and
mean,
endangers her whole life. So she has
yeah,
to get back in the car. But I
yeah.
love
He's
that
like,
she
"I know where
like,
you live. I know where you
yeah,
work. Like, I will make your life hell." And she's like, "Okay, I need to play this smart."
yeah.
And then
But I just
she
love that she
does.
didn't put up with his shit. Like so many movies allow their characters to put up with so much weird shit going on. when normal people are just like would bounce, you know.
Totally, I agree
Yeah.
completely, and I'm glad that they had that in there. And the whole thing, like I thought his character was actually really good. Like he was a believable pimp. He like kind of towed that line that he like acted like he cared about them, but he was protective of them and he was protecting them or whatever. But he was also really scary and he
Yeah,
was just
he
a
wanted
wild card
money,
too.
and he didn't need to hurt her, but he wanted to make some money that weekend, so he needed her to stay around and like, yeah, I yeah.
Yeah, well, then Zola kind of starts working for him a little bit because like she kind of gets that scene that we mentioned where Stephanie's like sleeping with a bunch of guys. Zola's the one that sets that up. She's like, you should be charging more for your pussy. I'm going to create a new account so you can make more money. And
Hmm.
then she makes like $7,000 in one night sleeping with a bunch of losers. And then uh, I'm sorry, we don't know that they're losers. I'm just kidding. But she so then the guy comes in the next day and he's like, "Oh, you think you could do my job better than me?" And there's like a tense moment for a second. And then
It's
he's
like,
like,
I
"Nah,
guess you
here's
can't.
500 bucks.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you
you earned
can't.
it." And then so she kind of starts working for him a little bit, like being the protection for the night and
Yeah.
stuff, um, which was pretty interesting.
Hmm.
Yeah. Uh, I wanted to mention Stephanie's boyfriend,
Oh my
played by
god.
Nicholas Braun.
Yeah.
Um, his character was very strange. He was like he came along on this journey, this big adventure, and then like they basically dropped him
There's
off at this terrible
there's a
hotel,
lot
and
of
he
things that are unexplained in this movie, and that was one of like, which really reminds me that it is just a Twitter thread, and that there's all these things that happen to her that she doesn't know the context around or why it's occurring, and we never find out at the end either. And there's a ton of those instances in there, like from large to small. Like I remember when she's like crossing the Confederate flag, or just seeing like police beat somebody up in this, probably just to show it's like a fucked up town. Um, there's just like a lot of, or the girl the pimp was sleeping with that didn't say a word. There's just all these things, and I felt like it added like a lot of like texture to the film, or like,
yeah,
I don't know, like a lot of stuff around the edges, which gave you like a sense of place, and just how weird of a weekend this was for her. I don't know. And one of them was that boyfriend, because we never really figured out like, why did they bring him along? Why is she with him? Like, how could this even have been strung out this long if she like doesn't give a fuck about him? And her pimp is obviously just right there, like owning her in front of him. I don't know.
yeah,
It was just like we never find out any of these details, and it just kind of like really shows you how much of a, I don't know, of a 150 word Twitter like thread this was.
totally. And yeah, I mean the information's like out there. Like I've like heard I read like that article and stuff. And so the thing is like, and I think the movie like kind of hints at it. Like I totally I want to just echo what you're saying because I love it when movies do this sort of thing where they like hint at backstory but then don't
Mm-hmm.
explain it. I love when there's just like characters with like rich texture but you don't really know where they came from. Like there's I love when
There's
movies do
one.
that.
She showed up at the hotel to like pimp out the, not the friend, but to pimp out her friend, and it like cuts to the lobby of this like not run down hotel, but the sad hotel dining area, and this like performers are playing like steel drums, and this lady's like
Totally.
dancing, and
Yeah.
they're putting on a show for like these two tables in there, and I'm just like, why is the shot lingering on the steel drummer? And I was like,
Yeah.
it had to have been her part of her story. She had to have written like a sentence about it, like in that tweet.
I didn't see that in the Twitter
You
feed,
just
but
reread it, and
yeah, I read it today, so I didn't see that in there. But
those
what
are
I did
just.
see was that the lady who was with the pimp that was sleeping with the pimp, that was his fiance.
Mhm.
So they were like, they were in a relationship or whatever. And then the boyfriend has like bipolar disorder. Like he's mentally not right, and I think the
Mhm.
movie shows that pretty clear. Like
Yeah,
there's scenes where he's hitting himself and he's like throwing stuff around the room, and
losing
he's
his shit like an hour after her leaving. Yeah. for
Yeah,
sure.
and then there's like that other scene where like, Stephanie goes into like, go sleep with someone, and Zola and him are in the car, and he's like showing her like really bad videos from YouTube, just like people messing around the shower or whatever, and he's like,
I'm gonna
I'm gonna
make
make movies
videos.
like this. I'm gonna make movies like this, and I'm gonna make a lot of money. And
Yeah.
Zola's just like, what? Okay.
No, you won't.
But yeah, and also like yeah, whatever, like, but he's like that flip of his like emotions is like pretty clear. But yeah, I mean his character was pretty, you know, instrumental to the drama that happens in the back end of the movie. I don't know if we really need to talk about it, but there's like some crazy drama that goes down, and then like
Yeah, it's a
I
good
don't know.
twist, or it's a good like full circle of the storyline.
Yeah,
That
well
was
there's
a brutal climax.
I guess I can do want to talk about it a little bit because there's like one moment in all of that that like summed up how the movie like balanced the tension and the humor for me. And that was when they came back. So they were out all night, and then they went back to the crummy hotel where the boyfriend was at, and he had been hanging out with this other dude downstairs. And the pimp gets pissed about it, and he's like yelling at him like, you don't know that guy, like you told him that we have money, now they can go out with friends. And he's like, he like goes on this huge angry tyrant about how like I think at some point he goes, they can come back and slit our throats. And Zola's just in the corner, she goes, what?
Yeah.
Like, and her delivery of what
Uh,
was like
I'm
so perfect because it was like
I knew this
absurd.
was bad, but I'm in
Yeah.
deep, I guess. Like,
Yeah, but it was also like funny the way she said it too,
hmm
like as if like that probably won't happen because you're being crazy, but also I guess I don't know. Like,
yeah, this
what?
is
Where are
escalating
we?
quickly. What the fuck?
Yeah,
Uh-huh.
yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
And the movie plays that like that funny, serious. I mean, in the climax, so we were just talking about the boyfriend character and his bipolarness of him like not like he will not leave her no matter what, and they're just like insulting him so much in that final house scene, and he literally like tries to kill himself,
yeah,
and
he's like, I'm gonna kill myself, and they're like, come on,
yeah,
shut
they're like,
up.
oh, fuck off. And then
Yeah,
he just fucking does it. And then the movie a second later just cuts to his like bloody head in a car because he wasn't high enough, I guess.
yeah,
And they like don't mention it again. And it's like shocking, but it's kind of also like I don't know. They don't dwell on it being like that serious of a thing that happens.
yeah. Well, it's just like, yeah, and like it's a crazy story. That's like the whole thing. And then they're driving home, and she's just like in the back seat of the car, just like, I just want to go home. And like the Stephanie's like looking back on her, being like, I love you so much. And it's just like, she's just like, what did I get myself into?
Hmm
This is so crazy. And, that's kind of like the whole thing with this movie is that it's like, it's just a really crazy story, and a lot of twists and turns, but it was certainly fascinating. And, you know, it was something.
Yeah.
What's the
How many
tagline? Like, you want to hear a story?
what?
Y'all want to hear a story? And
Oh, is
like,
that the tagline
that's,
of the movie?
yeah, yeah.
That's like the opening line almost when she's narrating. How many stars did you give it?
I'm teetering, man. I'm either 4 or 4.5. I
Yeah.
think I might give it 4.5 because I think this is going to be one of my top movies of the year. Like, I'm not saying it's like number one because I don't know if it has like enough of an emotional impact to be like my top five or something, but I think it's going to stick with me, and I think like I'll rewatch it and stuff.
hmm
So I think it's going to be one of my top movies of the year.
Yeah. And
So
it's gonna I'm right there with you between four and four and a half. Like again, it didn't like pound me in the heart or the mind like at the end. But all the way through there was like it was a fun, interesting ride that I didn't get bored of, like tired of. And with all the style I had going for it, like it's gonna be easy to recommend for people who like these types of movies.
yeah.
So yeah, one of the better movies I've seen this year for sure.
Yeah, and I would even recommend people who like wouldn't typically watch this type of movie. I mean, it's short. It's only like 86 minutes, and I don't think there's anything like offensive about it. Like even the stripping is like done well. I don't know. Like I would recommend this movie to like anyone who's like looking for something different,
Mm-hmm.
and engaging story. But yeah, so I think that's. Do you have anything else to add with this one, or should we wrap this up?
No, that's it.
Cool.
Good pick,
Well,
Nick.
that was Zola. Thanks for listening to our show. Like and subscribe. I think that next week we're doing Black Widow,
Fuck.
and I think we might do all four of us on it. We haven't explicitly put that out there,
All
but
right. I hope
I
so.
think that
That'd be cool.
yeah, yeah, I think we might get the gang back together and have all four of us talk about the new MCU movie. So anyway, this has been the monthly movie dispatch. So Brandon, it was great talking to you.
Good talking to you, Nick.
And everyone listening, take care of yourselves and others, and be nice out there. Peace out.